Hey, everybody. Steve and I have over 20 years of experience as therapists and a whole lot longer than that as addicts in long-term successful recovery. We know better than anyone what works and what doesn't to break out of porn and sex addiction, to heal betrayal trauma, and to reclaim your relationship.
And we've gone ahead and poured all of our personal and professional recovery and healing experience into a first-of-its-kind program for addicts, spouses, and couples. We call it Dare to Connect.
At least 4 times every week, we engage with you in real time, in the trenches, giving you the knowledge and tools to take back your life and relationship.
Whatever else you guys have done on your journey for healing and recovery, we guarantee you have never done anything like this.
We've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Please don't reinvent the wheel.
Guys, come on, let's get real. Tomorrow never really comes. Don't wait one more day to change. Claim your free 2-week trial today at daretoconnectnow.com. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSE Squared Podcast. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the PBSE Podcast. Steve Moore here, and along with Mark Castleman, we're here for episode 153 of the podcast today. It's really great to be with you all. Hope that you're enjoying this festive time of year and that you're taking time with each of your families to spend time with loved ones and to connect with the people that you love and that you care about. We are tackling a couple of interesting questions today that came in from a listener in a single submission to us. And they are a little bit different, but they do definitely relate to one another. And so because we're tackling 2 of these, we're going to be moving fairly quick today. But we're excited. And first of all, before we get started, I just want to say to everybody, we really appreciate this. This is an addict that submitted this question and really appreciated his vulnerability in some of these questions because I think pretty much every guy Mark and I work with wonder about at least the second question at some point in time, but rarely do they have the courage to ask. So we are glad to be addressing that today. So I'll give you a quick summation of this gentleman. He's been listening to our podcast for a while now. He's been engaged off and on with a lifelong struggle with porn and sex addiction. He says to the tune of a better part of 25 years. When he was younger, he struggled with it for a stint, he said, but then was able to break free after a while. Later on in life, he got married, and during the course of his marriage, at one point in time, one of his kids had a pretty catastrophic health issue. It was a really high stress time. Some of those old behaviors began to come back in. And during that time as well, during that health struggle, he and his wife apparently became a little bit more distant, which according to him kind of helped to fuel some of the return to this addiction. And so now he finds himself here we are later in life. And he feels like he is back into now a full blown addiction again. And he has 2 questions to kind of attach to that. The first, I'm going to just read both of these to you word for word because he puts it best. He says, when I look at people's quitting stories out there, it always seems that there is some catalyst that forces the change. For example, a spouse finds out, loss of a relationship, job complications, etc. I don't have any of those currently. I only have a desire to change and the feeling that I'm spiraling towards some catastrophic event like that in the future. Do you think that lasting change is possible without some catastrophic catalyst to anchor change too? So great question about, do we need to have some sort of massive rock bottom, right, to break free of this thing as addicts? So that's the first question. Then the second one, this is what he says. To my knowledge, my wife does not know about my habits. So she hasn't been aware of this during the course of their marriage. She might suspect something weird in our relationship, and she definitely feels the disconnect. I know I feel it. If she doesn't already know, I see no reason to break that news to her. I see no reason to further distance her with that information when my goal is to ultimately bring her closer. Is it possible to break free of this without ever disclosing these things to her? I don't necessarily want to fight this alone, but I also don't want to put her through the heartache of this when she has been through so much already. It would devastate her. I just want to fix this problem and move on. Great submission.
Yeah, those are both great questions. Yeah, well, let's tackle the first one. This whole thing about, the motivation to change. Does it take some catastrophic, rock bottom event before somebody will really get serious about breaking out of addiction? It's a good question. I guess we should first look to define, what does it mean, rock bottom?
Yeah.
And in my experience, rock bottom is different for everybody. One person's rock bottom may not be that big a deal to another person. And so it really, I guess we could say rock bottom's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
Yeah.
The problem that I had during my deep addiction years is I heard this rock bottom thing said a lot. You'll see it, you'll hear it heard in a lot of 12-step programs, right? Especially AA, alcohol and drug use. They'll say, "Oh man, you haven't changed because you haven't hit rock bottom yet. You need your rock bottom." And so I was always waiting for a rock bottom.
Yeah.
And you know what? I had lots of rock bottoms come. And so, for example, catastrophic loss of businesses, foreclosures, bankruptcies, children falling to pieces because of an absent dad. I mean, my rock bottoms, I could list them out endlessly. Mm-hmm. And none of them was the thing that really shook me into finally getting super serious about recovery. So rock bottom, there wasn't a rock bottom that worked for me. So I'm what we call a bottom walker. You hit the bottom, you hit rock bottom, and you just walk on it. You just walk along the bottom.
Yeah.
And I got into a place where, frankly, that sort of became normal life for me. It was, I joke about my extended family's mottos: life sucks and then you die. And if life really sucks, you live. Gosh, that was their motto. Yeah. And I adopted it well. So I just walk along in my misery, continuing in my addiction.
I love the way that you put that, Mark, because I think that I love the family slogan, because that, I think, so well describes what so many find themselves feeling. I love that as well. I've got a colleague that I worked with years ago who defined rock bottom as kind of the following. I added the Homer Simpson part, but he said, picture yourself kind of falling down a mountain, and I inserted kind of like Homer Simpson style, right? And you're just sort of bouncing on different rocks and trees and right, whatever. And he's doing the go, right?
Yeah, smashing your face and your head, and
it's just banging himself up everywhere. And that rock, like true rock bottom, I mean, if we get serious for a minute, guys, true rock bottom is death. Right. Yeah. I mean, the real end to this all, like Mark indicated, is that true rock bottom is death. This addiction absolutely does kill people. Not from a place of, masturbating into having an aneurysm, but from a place of, your view of self, your view of life gets so low. Mark and I have both seen this claim people's lives, and it is a serious business. And when we talk about this colleague's definition of rock bottom, I love what he said, because he said, when you're bouncing down that mountain, rock bottom is when you choose to reach out and grab one of those rocks or one of those plants or one of those trees. And even though you're battered and bruised, you choose to grab it because you are sick of bouncing Homer style down the mountain.
Yep. That's your rock bottom, not waiting to get to the magical bottom.
Yes.
Right? Because Steve, you and I experienced that we just kept tumbling downward to a new low and a new low. Right. And it's like, I was waiting for the magical thing that was going to shock Mark's brain into getting serious. Mm-hmm. And no matter how bad it got, it didn't work.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, and before we got started here, you brought up this concept of external motivators versus internal motivators. And we're going to talk about that for a second.
Yes.
With this rock bottom concept, those external motivators, if we kind of put this in animal farm terms, my grandfather, he raised horses his whole life. External motivators, they kind of lead us like a horse. They lead us to the trough, right? They help us to recognize that we're thirsty, and they will take us there. But what keeps us there, what keeps us drinking, what keeps us filling that bucket, what keeps us working on things are the internal motivators.
Yeah, right? I mean, that was me. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Mm-hmm. And I had all these external, horrible, terrible things that kept happening that would nudge me and push me and shove me in the direction of the recovery water trough.
Shove your head down in the water for 10 seconds.
Try to shove my head down in the water and, drown me in the water. Drink the damn water.
Yep.
It didn't matter. The external factors or motivations they did often get me there. I mean, I'm going to say
absolutely.
that, but it didn't last.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't last. I would always leave the trough.
They're not enough on their own to elicit true long-term change.
That is a great way to say it. I don't care what external motivator it is, how rock bottom, horrible, catastrophic it is, by itself, it is not enough to keep you in lasting, real recovery.
Yep. And that's important in answering this guy's question, because we really do connect with him. Like all of us who've been in pain and when we've been so numbed out and tuned out to all of this stuff, and to consequences and things, we're almost hoping. I know that sounds weird to somebody who maybe not be an addict, but in some ways you're almost praying that something's going to hurt bad enough that it's going to somehow change it.
Well, I even took it further than that. I would self-sabotage so that something bad did happen, hoping it would be the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. It's a great point, right? And we even will we will even impose our own external motivators. I've shared before on here, I did everything from smash video games that I owned as a punishment for acting out to honest to Pete. I really did smack myself in the genital area with a wiffle bat once. That's full disclosure.
Now that's external motivation.
That's external motivation. Like we really do. We tried to, most of us acts, we've tried everything. And again, those things, they can, we all, as Mark and I say, when guys come to our office because of external motivators, God bless you for being here because your wife told you she was leaving or whatever, if you don't, because that's how recovery started for both of us. But that's the emphasis, right? It's the start.
That's what we have trouble accepting.
Yes.
Well, the addict brain in us knows that if, an external motivator gets us to the recovery trough to drink, continuing to drink on a consistent, daily, ongoing, long-term basis is a lot of work.
It is.
That part of the brain says, oh, no. Let's just stay in our comfort zone. Let's just stay with our outlets. Hard work for years.
Yeah. And so what this really comes down to, guys, is a bit when it comes to this motivation piece, it's this really battle about developing and changing your perception. A good way to put it would be, in a loving way, the most loving way possible, waking the hell up, right? And seeing what this thing is really costing us, right?
Yes.
And and so it's really developing out that self-vulnerability. Again, not in a shaming way. I didn't mean that in a shaming way, but just truly asking yourself, is this exchange that I'm making really worth it? When I'm sliding a dollar bill, across under the window of addiction, and they slide me back 2 quarters, am I getting robbed here? Is this really worth it to me?
Yeah.
Is this, what are the consequences? What do those look like? And that's hard. That's the catch-22, because we addicts, we need to feel something to find this motivation, but we're experts at numbing out our feelings.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. And I love the question you put together before we started, Steve. As an addict, ask yourself, do I have the awareness to recognize the significance of what I'm losing? Do I even know? Or am I so numbed out and so narrowly focused on, my urges and going to my outlets and then being in shame after and then going back? Am I so narrowed in that whole addiction cycle that all I can see is life through a little drinking straw? What is it going to take for me to I like to say, throw down the damn drinking straw? We're at the Grand Canyon, right? The Grand Canyon of possibilities.
Yeah.
But this awareness of, what is this really costing me? What am I losing? Some guys say, well, it doesn't hurt anyone. It's just me privately. What does it do? And what I'll often say to those guys, have you considered the opportunity cost?
Yeah.
All the things you could have been doing, could have developed, and could have focused on, and could have been involved with. Yeah. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. And that's a whole other discussion, right, about this, because, Mark said something great when we were preparing for this. It's there is that piece, you ask yourselves, what are we losing? and what causes us to be so numb to this? It's obviously shame. It's obviously all the justification and the thinking errors that we experience. But the other primary part of this that we don't talk about enough is what? It's our self-value. It's our self-worth, right? If I've already predetermined, this is my story. If I already predetermined that this marriage is ending at some point, no matter what, because one day my wife's going to wake up and realize what a moron she married. And I'm just waiting for that day in the back of my brain, then how motivated am I going to be to really trying to change? If I've already decided from a shame-based perspective how broken and useless I really am, and then nobody would ever really want to be with me long term, why would I ever want to fix this?
Yeah, and my side of that was nobody like me deserves good things in life anyway.
Amen.
And this is the only quote good thing that I have are my sexual outlets. Am I going to be motivated to change with that attitude? Mm-hmm. Right? Or the little voice that comes and says, "You're never going to overcome this. You're dreaming if you think you can actually let this go." So all of that working against us, and really, here's the bottom line: this comes down to the addict self, right? That part of the brain, that limbic system, that little addict that tries to run the show, does run the show, that we allow it to do so, versus the authentic self. Who are you? What do you really want out of life? Right? Here's one of our favorite questions. When is enough enough?
Yes.
When has this damn addiction taken enough from you? From your self-esteem, from your dignity, from your potential, from your future, from your success, from your relationship, from your family, from your world, right? When is enough enough?
Exactly.
It's an attitude. I finally got so angry. I'm like, damn it, I'm sick of this. Mm-hmm. It has taken enough. Right?
It will take everything, and it will never stop. Never. It will never be satisfied.
It's ever. Insatiable. It is insatiable.
It is.
Yeah.
And anyway, there's lots we could say about that. I know that this whole idea about developing out self-perception and establishing healthy boundaries. Right now, we are covering boundaries in our Dare to Connect program. So only if there was a place, Mark, again, that we could
or you could learn about personal boundaries.
Guys, please come and join us. We won't beg, because you got to do this for you, but we have created a space. We've created an environment. We've created a recovery environment where you can come and be immersed 4 times a week now, in 4.5 hours for each person, and you and your partner, in the world of recovery, from 2 addicts and therapists who have put 40 years of professional and 30 years of personal experience of recovery-ish, all to bear into a one-of-a-kind program called Dare to Connect. We connect with you, we get real with you, we offer you in the trenches solutions, and we walk you through these issues in real time on an interactive level. Mark and I, as you've probably heard before on one of the advertisements for this, please do not reinvent the wheel. We've already done that. Come join us. We would love to have you and your spouse come and join us at Dare to Connect. You can grab a free trial of that at daretoconnectnow.com. More details are forthcoming, but the price on Dare to Connect will be increasing dramatically for new subscribers not too long after the first of the year. And we'll give more information about that another time, but we would encourage you to come and try it as soon as you can. Give it a shot. You will be glad you did. We'd love to have you there. And you can find info about that at daretoconnectnow.com. So there's a whole world about this idea for motivation for change. And again, we'd love to talk more about that at D2C. We'd love to have you come join us. Now on to the second question here. Should I disclose to my spouse? And like I said, we give props to the guy, to this asker, or this listener, for asking, because every guy has wondered this, but few have the courage to ask.
Well, and he makes great rational argument within himself, right?
He does.
They've already had a catastrophic situation with a child. They've been through hard things in their marriage. Why would he want to pile on? Why would he want to further distance her with this information that's going to devastate her? Why can't he just go fix it himself and then come back to her fixed, and we never have to divulge what happened? It's fixed.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's so true. And again, every one of us addicts, I think, have gone through this same line of thinking, right? I know I did. It's really easy and to be fair, when you're new in this process, these are valid questions, and
Absolutely.
they're important to answer, but we can answer this fairly quick. So we'll expand on it. But the answer is, should I disclose to my spouse, is that with very rare exception, the answer is yes. And that exception piece actually is technically not even an exception in virtually every case. It's more of it's a question about timing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When and how to disclose rather than should I. We talk about in here and at Dare to Connect all the time. There are a couple of key ingredients, guys, for any intimate relationship to develop. If you were to approach it like a recipe, you know, you got your basic ingredients, you got your flour, your sugar, and your eggs. Unless excluding flourless cakes, because those are delicious. So my analogy only holds up halfway. But if we look at like transparency or being open with a partner, if we're talking about the ingredients, the recipe for intimacy, that's like taking the flour and half the eggs out. You will never, the reality is, and you're talking to two guys who spent a lifetime on a crusade of trying to bend the laws of emotional physics and make this not have to be the case.
Oh yeah, we're going to be the exception. I'm going to break the code on this. I will be the one who figures out how to isolate and still have all the other good stuff. I can have it. I can have both.
There's got to be a way to be able to have this thing on the side and have this great connected, amazing marriage. And we'll just tell you, we'll stop the search. There's nothing at the bottom of that barrel, because at the end of the day, you will never create vulnerability and connection with deception, ever.
No.
Dark will never result in light. It just doesn't work that way.
No, you will never achieve true intimacy through secrecy.
Yep.
Why? Because they're polar opposites.
Exactly.
Right? What is intimacy? And I'm notorious for saying, into me you see.
Yes.
Into you I see. Well, if I'm hiding stuff from you, how am I going to allow you to see into the whole me? If I'm withholding part of myself, then who are you in a relationship with?
Somebody else.
You don't know. You don't know. And we'll have spouses often say, I don't know who my husband is. I don't know who I married.
And by the way, that ends the relationship far quicker in almost every circumstance than the acting out itself.
Than the actual behavior.
Yep. So
true. So true. They're like, yes. Did his acting out hurt me? Yes. Is it painful?
Absolutely.
But the thing that really was the deal breaker that destroyed it all. He lied to me.
I don't know who the crap I'm married to.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
I don't even know who this person is. I don't even know exactly who it is that's in this relationship with me. And so yes,
we
please,
cannot
please
have that intimacy and still be secret.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have a decision to make.
And there are, and honestly, that's not just from the avoiding betrayal. It's also from the creation side, right? That's a discussion for another day. But coupleships grow and intimacy develops when we tackle issues together. That's what marriages are about. And when one of us, however well-intended, just tries to go off on a crusade solo and they leave their battle buddy behind, no matter how loving or well-intended it may be, it just, in our experience, it never, ever goes well. And the cost will always outweigh whatever benefits there may be.
And for all of you, listening, dubious about what we're saying, I don't know. I can tell you from my part, and I know Steve will second this, and I have endless numbers of clients who will tell you the thing that welded us together as a coupleship. You can't drop a bomb on us today and break that weld. The thing that did that were the crazy, crazy hard stuff that we faced together.
Yes.
That's what did it. And if you're avoiding the hard, you're not going to get that welding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Nope. 100% agree with that. So with that, guys, we need to wrap up. Again, we don't have the time we have in our Dare to Connect program on a podcast, but we do want to leave you with a couple of assignments.
Yes.
So let's jump into those real quick. One for each of these things. First, with addressing this motivation for change, in some way, you need to sit down and, kind of like we indicated, get in touch with the emotional fallout of your choices. There's a lot of ways to do that. depending on your circumstance. For example, sitting down and vulnerably asking a spouse, can you, maybe not even now, because I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you walk me through like the real consequences, the real impact that this is having? Most of you would be shocked, for those of you who don't talk to your spouse about this, how much, probably from a loving or a conflict avoidant place, your betrayed partner, spouse, is holding back on these things out of fear or out of love or not wanting to hurt you or whatever. But we need to know those real consequences. You can, if that's not appropriate, you can also go to a close friend, trusted family member that's appropriate, and ask those same kinds of questions. Sit down and make a pros and cons list with yourself, right? And ask yourself again, is this exchange fair? If I was watching someone on the outside and I had someone come to me and they'd said, here are all the things that I get out of this behavior and here are all the things that it's coming at a cost with, what would you tell them? Would you tell them, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, you should stick with that? Or would you say something else? Right? Yeah. So lots of ways to do that, but in some way we've got to, again, start to wake up to, the consequences. We got to shake off that numbness, that dullness, that rationalization and justification we find ourselves caught in.
Yep. And dare to actually stand and look in the mirror, eyeball to eyeball with yourself, and face this straight up.
Yep.
Right. You've got to do it. If you need to rely on others to help you get to that place, then call on them to help you to get that perspective. The other assignment is with regard to the disclosure. If you haven't yet disclosed, you need to come up with a plan to do so.
Yes.
And the best way to come up with that plan is to contact a professional who has experience with disclosure. Yes. You can even get a little consultation that doesn't cost you anything, where you can talk to them about disclosure. They can give you the rudimentary basics about what a plan would look like, and then you can decide to go forward with them. But you've got to get a disclosure plan in place.
Please don't run out and just do it willy-nilly either.
Because that can be incredibly damaging. No, hey, I'm going to disclose.
But at the same time, you do need to be forming a plan, and that does need to start happening.
Yeah, please do it through somebody who has professional experience with disclosure. Don't try to go that alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, again, as we're hitting into this holiday season, we wish you all happy holidays. We love and appreciate all of our listeners and are grateful to have so many listeners across the globe. We just passed 250,000 downloads. We have listeners in over 160 some odd countries now. It's just wonderful to hear from each of you. And even if all you send to us is just a comment about how much this podcast affects or influences you, really, that's the reward for us. Please, again, do consider coming and joining us. Level up your recovery in a way you never have before. Whatever else you've done in recovery, you've not done something like Dare to Connect. Go to daretoconnectnow.com and claim that 2-week trial. We'd love to have you join us. And as always, if you would like to have something briefly tackled on this podcast, we love submissions from you, whether it's feedback or otherwise. And you can send that over to us at the contact form at the bottom of our podcast website, pbsepodcast.com.
Yeah. Great. Great to spend time with all of you. And again, hope your holiday season is connected and wonderful. And we will see you next time on PBSE.
Awesome. Have a great night, guys. Everything expressed on the PBSE podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants, and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.